Okay, I'm going to call to order tonight's the Thursday, November 20th, College Township Council Meeting. I'll ask anyone who can stand to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First item on the agenda is public open discussion. It's an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address council on any matter that's not already listed on tonight's agenda. Looking in the room, looking online. Anyone online, anything that's not already on tonight's agenda? Okay. We'll close that. We'll move to new agenda items. Same deal. This time, first I'll go to council. Any members like to offer consideration of a new agenda item for either tonight or a future meeting? Same with the audience. Opportunity to request a new agenda item for either tonight or a future meeting. Okay, hearing none, we'll move to page 2 of the agenda, which is special presentations. Tonight we have 2. The first of which is SP1, the Center Region Park and Rec Authority Annual Update. This is not an action item. Do we have any lead-in from staff, or are we going right to Kathleen?
Right to get.
All right. You're up.
Okay, well, good. Thank you. Thank you. First thing I need to do is apologize for not showing up at the last meeting. I'm at the point in my life where if it doesn't get written on the calendar, there's a high likelihood it's not going to happen. I might just not go to so I do apologize. But I'm here tonight to bring you up to date on what the authority's been doing and also the Milford Marsh Advisory Committee. So,
hang on a minute.
go ahead. Okay, good now? All righty. So I just went through the notes that you probably see that I do every month for the Parks and Recreation Committee. I just kind of went through to do a summary. So you might have heard some of this before. To start off in January, with the authority, we approved the 2025 member roster for the Millbrook Marsh Nature Center Advisory Committee and approved dates for joint meetings with the Parks Capital Committee. We heard a presentation from Jerry Northridge on the Oak Hall Regional Park water distribution line and discussed with Ben Estel the 4 options for the proposed Hess Field restroom project. We voted unanimously to recommend to the Finance Committee, the Executive Committee, and General Forum the award of a contract to Fernsler and Hutchinson in an amount not to exceed $43,950 for design and architectural services to construct the concession and pavilion at Whitehall Road Regional Park. In February, that was our first joint meeting of the year with the Parks Capital Committee. We unanimously approved the agreement as described in a confirmation agreement between Penn State and the authority that extends the lease on Millbrook Marsh Nature Center to June 30th, 2064. And that followed the occupancy of the Spring Creek Education Building addition. That was all part of the planning process for that. The authority and PCC discussed the Hess Softball Complex restroom project, agreeing that the sewer option is the optimal solution, although cost and time constraints are pretty challenging with that option. Generally, though, both groups felt that the luxury restroom trailers ought to be the next short-term solution. The authority members encouraged PCC members to work on funding strategies for this project as well as for the boardwalk at Millbrook Marsh. The Bathgate pedestrian bridge repair at Millbrook Marsh was on the agenda in March. We approved proposals from CMT Laboratories and Providence Engineering for preliminary work on the project. We discussed Hess softball complex and completed an important step in the master planning process for the facility by recommending the 3-field design for consideration by the Cobb Finance Executive and Facilities Committees and the General Forum. Following our tour of Hess softball complex in mid-April, we heard a second presentation by Jerry Northridge regarding the Oak Hall well lease agreement. Jennifer Dombrowski from Clearwater Conservancy presented the Community and Watershed Forestry Practice Installation Agreement for the Millbrook Marsh Nature Center riparian buffer planting plan, which required an emergency meeting of the authority the following week, since we lacked a quorum at the regular meeting. Clearwater's proposal was approved at the emergency meeting, and you can enjoy the results of that project, as you've probably noticed in the marsh. At the second joint meeting with the Parks Capital Committee in May, we heard an informational report from Sam Bryson Brockman on the Millbrook Marsh Nature Center Bridge Evaluation Report. Providence Engineering detected slow deterioration of the joists, beams, and piers and recommended repairs to the pedestrian bridge instead of replacement. This project is fully funded through a $100,000 donation. The authority also unanimously voted to support the expansion of the protection area surrounding well OH20 at Oak Hall Regional Park, which had been presented twice previously by Jerry. The authority voted to authorize the Center Region Active Adult Center agreement between Center County and the Center Region Parks and Recreation Authority for calendar year 2025. We learned of the Columbia Gas easement project on Spring Creek, in Spring Creek Park, for the removal of 14 trees near the Balmoral Park parking area, as well as the replacement plan. The authority unanimously voted to approve Resolution 2025-5 endorsing the John Hess Softball Complex Master Plan, all ages layout for the 3-field configuration. In June, Gretchen Brandt and I presented an update on the activities of the Governance Committee. We heard a report about the Puddintown Road Interceptor Project special study by UAJA. We unanimously recommended endorsement of the Strategic Guide to Services and Investments for CRPR to use as a planning tool in ongoing budget development and intergovernmental coordination. We discussed CRPR athletic field use and scheduling policy. During our July work session, we discussed the 2026 CRPR fee policy and fee schedule in preparation for the regular meeting. At the regular meeting, we approved the 2026 fee schedule as proposed, with final review of tier alignment and associated 2026 rates to follow at a later meeting. Cynthia Hahn presented CNET's 2024 annual report. We discussed further the CRPR athletic field use and scheduling policy draft. We discussed the 2026 strategic guide in services and investments and made several comments. We heard a presentation from staff about a proposed volunteer program, an extension of the current My Veteran, My Hero tribute tree program called Operation Honor Grove. The final change order for Whitehall Road Regional Park for sinkhole repairs was approved, and yay, July 25th, we opened Whitehall Road Regional Park to the public. That was the highlight of the year. Excuse me for a second. During the third joint meeting of the year in August with the Parks Capital Committee, we unanimously voted to hold the grand opening of Whitehall Road Regional Park on September 24th. We unanimously approved the 2026 fee schedule as presented and the athletic field use and scheduling policy as presented. We discussed the county meal service agreement for the Active Adult Center, which went into effect October 1st. Unlike the prior agreement, coffee and tea service is not included, so staff was exploring alternatives to providing the service. Staff presented a draft of the 2026 budget. We discussed the intergovernmental relationship agreement and policy for accepting parkland drafts from the Governance Committee. In September, we unanimously approved the MS4 partner collaboration on continuous maintenance of the Millbrook Marsh Stream Restoration Project, MOU, and authorize the authority chair to execute the MOU as written. Other unanimous votes included the recommended approval of the 2026 budget for CRPR as presented and approval of the concession operations plan for CRPR as presented. We discussed the 2026 CRPR fee policies and guidelines, and on September 24th, we did hold the grand opening at Whitehall Road Regional Park. In October, we unanimously endorsed the 2024 annual audit report prepared by Mayor Dussel and voted to approve the State College Area School District's request to paint numbered color blocks in the Park Forest Pool parking lot. We reviewed and discussed the 2026 fee policy and rental guidelines and the Whitehall Road Regional Park concession and pavilion bid drawings. So that was it through October for the authority. And the Millbrook Marsh Nature Center, at our March meeting, we heard a presentation about the Clearwater Conservancy Spring Creek chapter of Trout Unlimited and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Stream Bank Stabilization Project Phase 1 restoration, including the Millbrook Marsh riparian buffer planting plan. In June, we heard a report on the UAJ8 Puddingtown Road Interceptor project, as well as an update on the Slab Cabin Stream Bank Stabilization Project Phase 2, and approved the addition of 2 vernal pools to the project. We were introduced to the 2026 Strategic Guide to Services and Investment Projects for the Nature Center. And in September, we toured the boardwalk and discussed the replacement project, and the CRPR 2026 budget was presented for discussion. And that is it. We were pretty busy. So, do you have any questions?
Well, let's see. Rich?
No, I actually had the opportunity to spend a lot of quality time with Kathy between Parks Capital and Parks Governance and all that, and I always read her reports. So thank you.
Oh, sure.
No questions, but thank you for all you're doing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll go with that, Dustin.
Yeah, Kathy, just thanks so much for your continued service.
Yeah, sure.
I echo the same. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw my thank you in there, too.
Okay.
I want to go back to the highlight of the year. If we might say the highlight of the past half dozen years.
Oh, yeah. It was a long haul, but we got it done.
Yeah, and by the way, thank you especially for your service representing us through that challenging period of getting to the point where Whitehall Road, we actually opened the park.
Right. It was good.
I'm not sure the people who showed up for that grand opening really fully understood what went into getting that park built and open.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, those of us that worked really hard to do it, we're glad to do it, and every time we go there, it's fabulous. I'm really proud of it. I think we all did a good job.
And we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, that takes us to our second special presentation tonight. Clearwater Conservancy Slab Cabin Run Initiative. This looks like we have somebody here.
Yeah, just a quick introduction. I want to make a formal introduction of Ryan Hamilton. He is the Land Conservation Manager for Clearwater Conservancy, and he's here this evening to talk specifically about the Slab Cabin Run Initiative. So, turn it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Yes, my name's Ryan. I'm with Clearwater Conservancy, and I know you all heard a lot from Clearwater in the last year with our projects in Hauserville, and I'm excited to be here to talk to you about something completely different. So I think tonight I'm excited to share about some of the history of the Slab Cabin Run Initiative. This has been an ongoing project long before my time at Clearwater, and it's involved many partners in the community. So I'm also going to share a little bit about the Hess Farm project that we're working on currently. But we can go to the next slide. I know many of you are aware, but Clearwater's been around working in the community since 1980. We've conserved over 12,000 acres, installed over 26 miles of stream buffers, and led over 7,000 sort of events and outings in the community. Our conservation work is driven by our mission to protect the environment and support community health, and the Slab Cabin Run initiative is really a great, that's where a lot of those goals collide, I think. So we go to the next slide. The Spring Creek watershed, which we're in right now, you're all pretty familiar with, I'm sure. It's been the heart of Clearwater's work for a long time. It's where a lot of our efforts have been focused. We've expanded beyond that now, but we're still continuing to diligently do work within this watershed. And the sort of tan colored sub-watershed within the Spring Creek at the sort of bottom of the screen is the Slab Cabin Run watershed, which feeds into Spring Creek. And the Hess Farm is there outlined in red. That's on Roaring Run, which is another stream flowing down Tussey Mountain near Shingletown that flows into Slab Cabin as well. Next slide, please. But I think it's always, with this kind of work, it takes so long. It's always helpful, and I think a good reminder to look back at some of the history of what's happened here. So this map is sort of a visual of the area. You can see State College to sort of the north or the top, Tussey Mountain or Rothrock State Forest to the south, Route 45 and the farmland we're all familiar with sort of in the center of the map there. The purple parcels are owned by the State College Borough Water Authority. It was, I know there's people here who know this history better than me, but I'm going to make an attempt. You know, the late 1800s, 1890s, when the State College Water Company started providing public water to the community, it was pulled from that ridge on Tussey Mountain. It was eventually the 1960s when the well fields there were drilled, the Thomas and Harder well fields. And those wells have been providing the community with drinking water ever since. It's an incredible resource that we have here in our community. Around 2008, the State College Borough Water Authority developed what they called sort of their first source water protection plan. This was a plan that they put in place to ensure that this drinking water source was protected. Around 2017, they updated that plan and established sort of zones to think about how to protect this water resource. So Zone 1's within several hundred feet of the wells. This is kind of the most protected zone. Zone 2 is sort of anywhere where that aquifer is draining directly to a well. And you can see Zone 2 roughly outlined on the map in the sort of hashed black and white line there. And then Zone 3 is the area even beyond that where surface and groundwater contribute to those wells eventually. We can go to the next slide. So over the past several decades, Clearwater, the Borough Water Authority, municipal partners, the Spring Creek Watershed Commission, many partners, many individual landowners, DCNR and Rothrock State Forest have worked together to try to collaborate to identify sort of a landscape level source water protection goals. And what we've come up with, sort of understanding that source water protection goes, or drinking water protection goes beyond just treatment. It's about protecting the source, and this idea that an ounce of prevention now can be worth a pound of cure later. We identified sort of 4 broad categories of sort of conservation goals or targets. So that's sort of the Zone 2 source water protection area, the forests and wildlife of Tussey Mountain, productive agricultural lands, and the exceptional value and high-quality streams that run through that area. We can go to the next slide, please. So as you can see, we're starting to add to that map. These are some of the other partners who have been critical in making this work happen over time. You can see in blue, or in sort of the center there, are Penn State lands. Adjacent to that is a hashed sort of yellow. That's the Whitehall Regional Park that we are also excited that has opened. And then in sort of the tan color there, those are the Center County Agricultural Preservation Program. They've permanently conserved a number of farms in the area as well. So it's truly a collaborative effort with many partners advancing this work over time. If we go to the next slide, please. This slide adds to the map again. You can see Clearwater's projects over time. The sort of teal projects are permanent conservation easements. So, for example, the large teal project in sort of the top right is the Meyer Eberhardt project that was a major community effort around 2017, 2018. And you can see the green sort of outlined parcels to the south adjoining Tussey Mountain. These are properties that Clearwater purchased and transferred to Rothrock State Forest, and what we now know and love as Musser Gap. And this includes sort of a trail system and bridge that's been developed across the landscape there, sort of the Musser Gap to Valley Lands initiative, and working with Rothrock Trail Alliance to develop trails from Musser Gap as well. So there's, I tried to add it up at one point and gave up, but there's been millions of dollars invested through many partners over many years to protect this community resource. This next slide shows what Clearwater is working on in 2025 and 2026. The sort of green outline parcels are folks that are potentially going to be part of what we call a woodland stewardship network. So these are private property that's interested in collaborating together to protect their forest resource. It's especially important on kind of those headwater streams on the side of the mountain there. And then the yellow parcel is in sort of the center is the Hess farm that I mentioned. This is a 110-acre active beef cattle operation. They've been active on this farm for 6 or 7 generations, so it's a significant generational farm as well. It's about a half-mile upstream from those wells that we mentioned. And you can see Roaring Run is sort of highlighted on the right-hand side of the property, along with that sort of highlight denotes a lot of Clearwater's riparian projects in the area as well. So we can go to the next slide. So at the Hess farm, over the years, they've really committed to a lot of conservation efforts, everything from stream crossings and fencing to riparian buffer plantings, rotational grazing, gravity flow watering systems, a new heavy-use manure storage barn. Some of these are before and after photos to give you an idea of a lot of the efforts that they've engaged in through the Conservation District and in their own efforts, along with other partners. We can go to the next slide. So Clearwater's very excited about working to permanently conserve that Hess farm, but we're trying to make this project about more than just that. We're also conducting a feasibility study to better understand and evaluate how groundwater recharge can be improved on this kind of property, and it's something that we can apply to other projects in the future. And we're doing sort of an education and outreach campaign, partnering with the Spring Creek Watershed Commission and some other partners to lead some outreach and education efforts about this important community issue. So that really kicked off this past spring. We had we're fortunate to have the statewide Land Trust Conference held here in State College, and we were able to provide a tour of the area and some of the history and the projects that the community has worked on here. Brian Heiser met with the group and shared about the Water Authority's work. We took them up to Musser Gap and hiked around as well. So we're excited to continue that work, and this presentation and update for you all is part of that as well. We can go to the next slide, please. So these kinds of projects take significant funding to make happen. It's a big investment. We've been fortunate to have some really great success with that so far. We have federal dollars committed through NRCS. It's a Regional Conservation Partnership Program. We have that's sort of a state and federal dollars. We've got regional commitments through the Susquehanna River Basin Commission. They regulate water withdrawals throughout the region, and they're excited about the potential for groundwater recharge at a project like this. And then we have some additional commitments from local and regional foundations and individual supporters, and we're on our way to making the final fundraising push for this. I would like the council to consider potentially supporting this financially. I don't expect any discussion of that this evening. I can follow up with details, but in the meantime, we're excited to share about this work and let you know what we're working on. And we can go to the next slide, please. And I think it's really important for everyone to recognize, again, that these types of projects, these types of initiatives are long-term commitments by many different people, many different partners, and I think it's important to recognize we should all be thanking our local and regional decision makers for committing to this over time, for making these projects possible. Talking to our family and friends about these projects, making people aware of why this is important is always great. We're hoping to have some additional sort of outreach and education events, so we'd like to invite you all to attend that and contribute to continuing this conversation around what it means to protect the drinking water source that's important to all of us. So I'm happy to answer any questions. But I really appreciate the time tonight, and thank you.
Sure. How about we start with Dustin?
Yeah, I actually wanted to go one slide up if we could, and just ask a little more specifically. So the 875,000, is that like a total that needs to be for permanent conservation, or is that just all the projects and things that are going on in total? Like, how's that kind of breakdown?
Yeah, so that's the Hess Farm Permanent Conservation Project, plus the feasibility work, plus the education and outreach work.
Okay. So when you say permanent conservation, is that like a total lump sum buyout or something that you need to do? Like, what does that look like? Educate me a little bit, if you could.
Yeah, sort of. So a conservation easement is a property interest, sort of just like any other easement, like a utility right-of-way or something like that. And when a conservation easement is put in place, Clearwater, as the land trust, sort of holds the development rights to the property. So in some cases, we're able to raise funds to actually purchase those rights from the owners. So that's a big piece of this.
Yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for all the work. I mean, this is awesome. It really is. I'm thankful that we have such a great organization as yours in the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tracy?
Yeah, not that I guess I do have a question. As far as, and we can stay on this slide, as far as like the 150, I know you're eventually asking us to contribute, but how other ways that you guys are going out and advocating for the work that you're doing, because it's such a great work. Like, what are some of the other ways? And then you talked about inviting us to an event you're going to have. How do you engage the community to come and be a part of that as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that I think we're looking for input on as well. What's the best way to engage folks around this work? But I think we really try to push this information out through social channels and presentations like this to reach as broad kind of swath of the community as we can to try to invite people to these types of events and to be part of this type of initiative. Fundraising, it's primarily grant-driven, and that's where we try to bring outside dollars to the community to make this kind of project possible. But we've made presentations to several other municipalities and the Water Authority, and we're continuing conversations with donors to reach our goals.
I would just wonder, like, there's a large student population that is concerned about issues such as this. How are you getting that to them, other than social media outlets? Because I know that they're popular, but just being a person who does events, the good old word of mouth seems to be the best form. So, like, engaging our students that are in this community and surrounding communities that are proponents of recipients of this, how are we getting that to them? I'm just curious because they have a voice, and sometimes their voice is louder than ours can be.
Yeah, right. That's a great idea. I think we have partnered with a number of different student groups through volunteer events, and they've got energy and the willingness to engage in these types of issues, like you said, and that's been really successful. But I think you're right. The more we can share about this through word of mouth and engage other people, that's great advice.
That's all I had.
Susan?
Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for all the work that went into the actual PowerPoint. It was helpful to look at it before the evening's meeting. And I was thinking the conservation easement is something like what you've done at the Meyer Dairy Farm. Is that similar to the work up there?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a very similar tool that gets
Okay.
applied. So Clearwater holds a number of conservation easements throughout the region. It's something similar to like the county agricultural preservation program. They also hold conservation easements. And yeah, it's a tool to permanently protect the land. The big things are limiting subdivision and development rights, and ours focus on really trying to put standards in place that try to protect natural resources on the property.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I drive down Whitehall Road in the morning quite a bit, and I appreciate that the work was done in the past, because what I see each morning when I drive through there, I think about all the work that went into that, so that's not lost. And I also appreciate the work that you're doing, and you emphasize your work on public health and preserving the water quality. I think that's very important. You made the point that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and in this case, that's absolutely true. So I didn't realize that as much of your work was actually focused on improving, surface water quality, the runoff quality, the landscape level quality, as well as the groundwater. And insofar as HES goes, I was actually a little confused. I kept looking for where this was in College Township, so I was trying to look at the maps different ways. And so, yeah, so I think that there's so much that you're doing even outside of the township that impacts the health and the quality of life for all our residents. So, I think Tracy's questions were good questions, and maybe consider maybe an outreach program and taking local electeds on a particular tour to get us engaged and get us, boots on the ground. So I support your work and really appreciate it, and appreciate your coming out and helping me connect the dots, because Clearwater does so many different things, and so much of what you do affects so many different things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Rich?
No, great comments from my peers. I look at the Slab Cabin Run initiative with all the different colorings and dates and putting the pieces together and everything. It's just it's pretty amazing, the dedication and long-term vision for the whole thing. So we are very fortunate to have Clearwater as a part of our community.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Yeah, as Rich said, so much of the incredibly vital work that Clearwater does flies under the radar in this community. So I think you heard some suggestions for maybe engaging a broader support group. You referenced things that local municipalities can do. Well, some of that stuff was done right here in this room, what, 10, 12 years ago with the Everhart,
Yeah,
yeah.
2017.
This municipality refused to rezone the property several times, which in essence bought the community in Clearwater the time to raise the money to provide the Everharts with the development rights. And everybody left happy. And we have another spot on that map I think that we can all be very proud of. So besides money and contributions, you're right, there are things local municipalities can do. And that might be a point of focus too. Because if that property were to have been rezoned, all the work in the world is
The different
isn't going to
conversation.
fix that then after the fact, so. All right, staff? Adam?
A couple of questions, Ryan. All the area here that's making up the maps that we're showing is all in the center region, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And if I squared some things off, it kind of looks like we have an area here, I don't know, 3 to 4 miles by 3 to 4 miles long, right? Do you have any idea how many acres that is?
I probably should, but I don't know that offhand.
Do you know how many acres Clearwater has elsewhere in the center region that have been preserved in this manner?
Yeah, so we hold about 5,000 acres under conservation easement.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mike, other staff? Well, thanks again. You've given us a heads up. Appreciate it. Like Susan said, that was very helpfully informative.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, that concludes our second special presentation, and which is all our special presentations. That takes us to plans. Tonight we have two. The first of which is the Crew 814 Phase 1 Final Land Development Planned Residential Development Plan. Final Planned Residential Development Plan. Do we have a staff intro here?
Yes,
Lindsay?
yeah. I do have a brief intro, and John Sepp is here, as well as Matt from Burkentine is on Zoom tonight.
Okay.
So this is the Crew 814 Phase 1 Final Planned Residential Development Plan. On April 3rd, council tentatively approved the tentative plan with 18 conditions. You recall the multifamily was a conditional use, so 18 conditions were incorporated into the tentative plan approval. Also that evening, the plan was found to be in the public interest. Next slide, please. So the Phase 1 final PRD. The process so far. So as I mentioned, back in April, the tentative plan was approved. Final plan submission came to staff in September, and then in October, Pantera came here to present to council just a brief overview of the plan and noted how the final plan is consistent with the tentative plan, because the council and staffs were limited to, our review is limited to making sure that the final is consistent with the tentative and not much beyond that. So in October, the developer ensured that the final plan can be moved through the process because it has not strayed far from the tentative plan. Then through October and November, staff and others reviewed the plan. And tonight, they're presenting to you the presentation of Phase 1 final plan. And also, we're not really asking for action tonight. It's just kind of an overview for you to see where things stand as of now. Then when we get to our next meeting in December, we'll present to council a clean plan, and everything that council talks about tonight will be, if there is anything, will be incorporated, and we can come back for final action by December 21st, which is the date that's set forth for the final action. So just some plan highlights. The overall plan, the site owner, they're Terry Rogers and Kimberly A. Packer. The equitable owners are Burkentine Builders. The tax parcel is 192059 located along Shiloh Road in College Township. The zoning is planned research business park district, with multifamily being a conditional use.
There are not a lot of Americans who
There is a total parcel acres of 48, broken down into 2 phases. Phase 1 is about 19 acres, with 2 of those being in the right-of-way. Phase 2 is about 26 acres, with about a half an acre of right-of-way in there. The number of lots overall for the PRD are 5. We have Phase 1 lot, and there are 64 fee simple lots incorporated into Phase 1, Lot 1. Then we also have 55 rental townhomes, 2 36-unit apartment buildings, along with 1 community center. This plan, as per our ordinance, is required to provide 10% of their units as workforce housing units. The table up on the screen shows you how those are laid out. We'll receive a total of 62 to incorporate into our existing workforce housing program that the Center County Housing and Land Trust administers. 18 of those will be provided to us in Phase 1. The breakdown of that will be 4 for-sale units, 4 3-bedroom for-sale units, 6 3-bedroom rental units, 4 1-bedroom apartment units in apartment building 1, and 4 1-bedroom apartment units in apartment building 2. Also, there was an open space requirement within the planned residential development. The open space requirement here is shown on the screen, and that has been met, and there's approximately 12 acres being provided over the course of the entire PRD. And just to break down, this is Lot 1. This is the 64 fee simple lots at 0.036 acres per unit. Lot 2 shows 4 8-unit buildings and 4 6-unit buildings. Lot 3 shows the 2 apartment buildings, 3 stories each, with 36-unit apartments in each. And we have the Lot 4, which is the community center, that is showing to include currently a clubhouse, pickleball courts, a tot lot, a swimming pool, and any associated parking. Currently, the comments that the council has in front of you tonight have been reviewed and presented to Pantera. Over the past few weeks, they prepared the plans and actually resubmitted a plan back to us late last week. Staff has gone through briefly the resubmission, and John can speak a little bit more to that later if you like, but it appears that most comments that we've had have been satisfied, so we're very pleased with that. And of course, the one that is general comment that's remaining is the traffic impact study. And as if you remember, early last year or earlier this year, they came to council requesting that they can move forward with the plan based upon the condition that the traffic impact study will be completed prior to plan recording. And that's where we stand now. So that's just a brief overview. And as I noted, John is here and Matt Flickinger is here too from Burkentine.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Before we go to John, the reason that we're seeing it tonight and expecting to see it again in December is because there are so many comments that were not resolved until right up until, or is there another reason?
Well, no, there really isn't another reason. We just felt that,
We have the time?
Yeah, we have the time. They gave us a time extension to December. We were able to get the comments back and forth, working with Pantera closely, and this is an opportunity. If council feels that the plan is in good shape tonight, you could choose to approve the plan. My concern is that the plan that is as first submitted will have that original date on it and won't really reflect the comments that staff has made over the past few weeks.
Yeah, we were concerned that we wanted you to see the plan that we actually had thoroughly reviewed. What we didn't want to have is you looking at a plan and you look at us and we say, well, we haven't looked at it yet. Yeah. Now, as it was, we were able to get things looked at pretty good, but I think we still need to do another round before. So we wanted it to be a plan that we could address.
That helps. And so planning commission, this hasn't been before planning commission yet either.
No, the final plan process does not require this to go to
Oh,
planning
that's right,
commission.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they saw the tentative plan, they made their recommendation there, and that was their opportunity.
Okay. All right, John.
Thank you. I'm John Seff from Pentair Engineering. As Lindsay said, Lindsay did an excellent job. I really don't have a whole lot to add. Just one minor correction. One of the apartments has 42 units and one is 36.
Thanks, John.
The only, other than that, great job covering everything that I could have covered. We have addressed the comments, and the traffic impact study scope has been approved. And Wilshire Associates anticipates submitting the traffic study either next week or the week after Thanksgiving. So that's moving ahead as well. The comments were all technical in nature, definitely no major comments because there was so much work done at the tentative level of this plan. I mean, it was a very detailed tentative plan. Now we're just ironing out the minor technical issues that remain. I think we've hit 90% of them with the last submission. I feel that there's really not much left to revise on this plan.
Okay, that's good to hear. So from what I understand, then, those 2 pages of comments, 3 pages or whatever, they're mostly all technical. We're not going to run into any...
No, there's not going to be anything that's going to move a building or change an acreage or move a road, anything like that.
Okay. Well, we'll see what we can do about that. Susan?
No,
Just teasing.
I looked at the comments, and you got quite a few of them from different entities, from the planning agencies. But I don't have, as long as staff has reviewed each one of them and they see those changes made on the plans, I mean, it's down to the details of where the dashes are and things like that. So no, I don't have any questions so long as staff is satisfied and has gone through the plan and I understand the process. And thank you for, I mean, it's a complex plan, so what came back, it seemed like a lot when I read it, but looking at the complexity of the plan, it makes sense. So thank
We
you.
also met with staff before we resubmit it to go over,
Great.
to make sure we were on the same page before we address the comments.
Thank you.
Sure.
Rich?
No, it's very clear, a lot of staff time has gone into this, and this is not your run-of-the-mill project, so greatly appreciate that. And as Susan indicated, I mean, I didn't see any showstoppers, so I'm not going to provide one.
Tracy?
I echo the same. I echo the same as Susan, that I know it was complex, and I appreciate staff's effort and your effort of making sure and ensuring that the I don't want to say demands, that's what I almost said, but the comments were met, and, you know, just making sure that we remain working partners. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Dustin?
No further comments, thank you.
John, this has been, I think we should all be really proud of this effort. How often you work with conditional use projects, I don't know. But this can be a complicated and labor-intensive process, and I think for the most part, thanks to staff and the folks you're working with, it has gone about as well so far as it possibly could.
I agree. We're working very well with staff on this project. And we work well with staff on all our projects, but this one's a much bigger one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of gray area. Hey, just a question for staff. On the affordable housing requirement, the 10%, does that mean 10%, do they have to meet the 10% in each phase, or do they have to meet the 10% at full build-out?
At full build-out, so 10% of the units. So there's about 620 units. So the 10%, the 62 units will be provided. So they accomplish that, plan-wide, but phase by phase, they're just providing as the phases come through.
Okay, so it's just kind of a coincidence that we're around 10% in each phase, because someone could come in and provide 0% in phase 1? Am I understanding that correctly?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they have to be spread out a little over the phases. I don't believe we would allow that Do you have anything to add?
Well, I was just going to say, this is the question we had talked about previously relative to commercial areas and things like that and changing the phasing. So, I mean, basically, there's a requirement that 30% of the requirement needs to be met before you move on to another phase.
Right.
And I think that would hold here. So as long as there are 30% of the 10% that are being provided within this phase, I think that we're in good shape.
I mean, I'm happy with the numbers I heard tonight,
Yeah.
but it just raised the made me curious. Just so I understand, there'd be 4 owner-occupied units when the phase 1 is completed, and 12 attainable housing rental units spread between 1, 2, and 3 bedroom.
3 bedrooms and 1 bedroom. No,
Okay, so
2
16
bedrooms.
total, 4 of which would be owner-occupied.
Yeah, 18 total, 4 owner-occupieds. Yes, 4 3-bedroom owner-occupieds.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Susan?
hi. Just out of the, but out of 64 units in the first phase, right? So there are 4 units set aside as workforce housing units on those fee simple,
Yeah,
and there's 64 in that phase.
no, phase 1 is 18.
18?
Yeah.
Okay.
Out of the 62.
Okay,
And 4 of those will be owner-occupied.
wow. That's more than 30.
Yeah, so another, what, 14 are going to be attainable, part of the workforce program. Just the 4, though, would be owner-occupied.
Right. The
And
rest
fee
will,
simple.
But those will be our first 4
They will
fee
be.
simple.
Yes.
That's exciting.
and that criteria is 80 to 120% of AMI,
Yeah.
because we did change that not too long ago.
That's exciting.
All right, anything else? Staff? Mike, Lindsay?
Just want to say, the next step then will be bringing you the full plan as revised, as per the comments, and the next step should just be final council action.
And that would be at our second December meeting?
Yes, this December 18th meeting.
Do you have a plan to break ground yet?
Welcome to Crown next year.
All right, hey, if there isn't anything else, John, thanks again. We'll see you in 4 weeks approximately, 4 weeks from tonight, and express our appreciation to everybody that you're working with out there.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right.
Oh, and Matt is still up there. Matt Flickinger from Burkentine.
Say again.
Matt Flickinger's still up there from Burkentine. Maybe ask him.
Oh. Do we want to, did Matt, is he just watching?
We'll get another
Probably
bite
just-
at the apple in December.
All right, well, then I think that concludes P1. And that takes us to our second plan tonight, which is the Penn State Animal Diagnostics Lab Complex Sketch Plan. Again, not an action item, just kind of a heads up, looking for some general feedback. Am I correct?
Yes.
Is there somebody here from Penn State, or are you going to have this?
We do have someone here representing Penn State. Just a brief introduction, the Planning Commission saw this Tuesday night. They had a few comments, questions. One question was, what about the hazardous waste? Where would that go? A timeline, temporary parking for continued operations. And staff met with Penn State about 2 weeks ago or so on site and, talked a little bit about what they wanted to do and mentioned that sketch plans are usually pretty well received and that we recommended that they bring a sketch plan here for council to see as well tonight.
Well, the process of sketch plans are well received.
Yeah, yeah, not always. Exactly, yes.
All right.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Spackman, Project Director at Penn State. I'm going to pull the mic here and walk over to the screen with my pointer here. So about a year ago, I was here for our first phase. This building here, what was called the support annex, was here for land development approval. What it's going to do is give us the ability to move some people out of the old building into this building, and some buildings are going to be demolished in this area. Multiple phases it's going to go through with this larger plan here. So this is under construction today, along with the stormwater plan that encompasses the whole region. One of the first things we're going to do is across the bottom here is the Pasture View Road is going to get relocated. It currently cuts across the site like this. It'll get relocated to just be a little more perpendicular and parallel to our site. Once that's complete, then we will have a large infrastructure program of fixing the utilities down through here, bringing around the facilities, some of those cut across where the new construction is going to go. After that utility infrastructure phase is complete, then that sets us up for this new addition to the existing building. This is a state-funded project, so as long as those funds come through, we'll be looking at this probably starting in the fall of 2026. It does include some demolition of existing facilities in that footprint. After that demolition is complete and we construct that, then the final phase will be demolishing a part of the existing building in this area, which allows us to complete the parking to complete then the full build-out of this proposed plan. That's really it in a nutshell. I'll pause here for a moment. I do have one of our consultants, Carla, here, if there's any technical questions. But fire away, please.
All right, let's, staff, let's go with staff first this time. Any comments, questions? You were at the planning commission meeting?
Yes.
Anything you'd like to?
Well, they mentioned that they're working with, that everything goes to UAJA.
Correct.
And planned over the next 5 years. The planning commission just asked them to label some things, like where the parking would be. Temporary parking, they'd like to continue their operations as there's, the state uses this area as well. And then, yeah, they just asked about the timeline. PC. They didn't have any really significant comments.
Adam or Mike? No?
I have nothing.
How about Susan?
I don't think, other than, are there any changes? I think PC talked about it, the hazardous waste. Are there any planned changes for any of the diagnostic services or any increases in risk for hazardous waste?
No, really the operations that are going to happen here happen currently. This older building is just kind of nearing the end of its useful life, so we're going to expand into the new building, upgrade some facilities. This will get a little bit of repurposing at the end of the project also then.
Okay, thank you.
Rich?
No, I appreciate the understanding of the systematic approach to it. Having seen the previous section there on how this fits into it sure helps. Thank you.
Okay.
Tracy? Dustin?
I just had one question, because I'm kind of lost here for a little bit. Can you zoom out and tell me exactly where this is?
I actually brought it up on Google Maps. You know where the overnight RV parking is?
That's right.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, Wiley Lane here, this comes out right up to the parking lot, most of the RVs then, yeah.
Okay, this is a UPD district, I assume? Mm-hmm. So your reference to stormwater being handled regionally means that they have a district-wide, and that's why we're not dealing with stormwater or parking or any of those lot-specific issues at this point.
Yes.
Just another reason why the UPD was such a good approach. You know, we're living it every day now. It's painful to get to it.
That, yeah.
All right, well, it sounds like it's full speed ahead.
Very good.
What is we'll see a preliminary final land development plan then at some point?
Yes, this will come in pieces. We worked with the staff on how we'll do that. It'll start probably coming December, January will be those first pieces. With then the larger part that, as I noted, the addition will come probably in the spring. At that point, we'll have that ready to go for you.
All right. You mentioned this is a state project. This is being done with grant money? Is that what you mean by that?
What we would refer to as Department of General Services funds from the state of Pennsylvania, yes.
So you're not waiting on a grant approval?
No.
Okay.
Until we have it in hand, you just never know what's going to happen.
Right.
This is true. All right, well then, I think we're good. We'll see you then in December or January?
Yes.
Possibly?
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, that concludes plans, takes us to reports. First on the reports is manager's update. Does the manager have anything further?
I do want to emphasize that we're going to be seeking a date for a joint council and planning commission meeting here in the not too distant future. At this juncture, it's probably going to be the second half of January, but I think it's going to be an important collaboration between council and the planning commission as council provides some comment and reviews some of the work that's been done on form-based code, primarily by the planning commission. We may have some other information to bring to both parties at that time relative to some other things, i.e. Shiloh Road area, but we're still working on how best to present some of that information. But keep that in mind, and we may begin to send out some calendar reminders to try to get an idea when we could zero in on an appropriate date. So be looking for that, please. I do know that there is a solar power purchase. Is it a working group meeting?
Yeah, the solar group will meet December 3rd, so that was set after the agenda was published. And I also wanted to draw your attention to the Path to Campus project. As you know, we have been in design on that project, and we've been anticipating being able to go out to bid very early in 2026. And Dawn may be able to speak to this a little bit more, but PennDOT informed us that they will require a phase one archaeological investigation at, I think it's 3 different locations.
3 different
Dawn?
areas. One in an area where there was a known prehistoric facility that most likely was taken out when College Avenue was realigned, but they have to prove that that is the case. One in the area of the Historical Society, there's a little piece of ground that we're going to be within their property outside the right-of-way because of all the pools and that at Porter Road. And the other one is where we have the switchback that goes up into Penn State's property. There'll be some test pits required at those 3 areas. And we're in the process of getting a historical archaeological consultant on board to do that work.
So that will inevitably delay our ability to go out to bid on the project.
We just hope that nothing is found. Because if anything is found, then we go to phase 2.
So.
And then if it's really significant, you go to phase 3.
So I thought it was important that council had some.
And I'll be retired by the end of
No,
phase 3.
Don, do you know what happens in phase 2 and phase 3?
Nothing good.
Seriously?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's just it continued digging.
Keeps digging.
More
Find more stuff.
Now it becomes an archaeological site at that point. Okay. All right.
And Dawn becomes an archaeological site. Interesting.
I had nothing more relative to the manager's update, Mr. Chair.
On that uplifting note,
Right.
I'll leave us to. All right, fingers crossed. Questions for the manager?
Questions for the ray of sunshine.
All right, takes us to COG Regional County and Liaison Reports. The first COG committee that would have met after our last meeting was Climate Action, but it looks like that was canceled.
Canceled.
Canceled. Boy, you're getting out easier. Just quiet down.
It's fine.
You're missing the work session. You're going to miss the joint. Geez. All right, well, that would have taken us to public safety on the 12th. They met, right?
We did, very, very short meeting. The Emergency Management Coordinator presented an update on the active violence training that was requested. The FEMA IS-907 active shooter training is now available again. It was unavailable during the time of the federal government shutdown, but that is available. And so that will be in my report, so you can look that up and you can join that webinar. It is offered during business hours, so you do have to sign up for the webinar during business hours. And there will be an in-person active violence training for the general forum in early 2026, and the emergency management coordinator is working with local law enforcement to get that done. And then we'll be working on making that an annual training on a regular schedule. And he also made the recommendation, I think it came out of general forum, that individual municipalities consider some sort of active violence, active shooter training early on in 2026, maybe working with local law enforcement to come up with some kind of after-meeting training, something similar to general forum. So that may be something we want to consider.
Do you get to testify? What do you get to testify?
Maybe a little more than that. So, yeah. So, anyway, that was the recommendation. And that was it. The rest of it were just regular staff informatives, so I can send that packet out.
Questions? Thanks. That would take us to the 13th, where Finance Committee meets, and they never cancel their meetings, right?
I think we did once.
That was
Yes.
the one Dustin was going to sit in on?
Yes, that was good. The majority, we were about a 2-hour meeting, and the majority of it was a review of the 2026 budget process from start to finish, and to include asks outside of the Finance Committee, which those were moved on to the Executive Committee to go to other committees. Very positive of this year's process, and little tweaks here and there. The biggest thing that's going to happen is there's new software being applied early next year, so that'll change everything that we just did. See how that goes. Hopefully positive. We'll make it positive. And we talked about code with regard to fund balance policy. Our December meeting, which we generally cancel out because we've already had our 40 hours in for the week, is going to be fund balance, totally fund balance policy. So, happy holidays.
Someday it'll get there where it just goes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, we had exec on the 18th. Has journal form agenda gone out yet?
Yes.
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 So it's pretty lean agenda. But we did cover some ground in exec. Rich was there. And for the most part, in general, we supported the staff recommendation, which came out of College Township's proposal to restructure COG committees. And there was 3 pieces to the staff recommendation, and I might have to lean on Rich for a little help here. The first of which was staff recommended dissolving the HR and Facilities Committee. And that was pretty straightforward. We ended up with a compromise based on one municipality's hesitancy to pull back on those. And I think what we ended up agreeing to was not filling, or not scheduling any meetings. Is that what we ended up with for 6 months? Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than eliminating the committees immediately, just not, the discussion there was not to seat members, and for them not to meet unless the executive committee said they needed them to meet for at least the first 6 months.
And the second piece of the staff recommendation we generally supported, and that was to take climate action and TLU. Lucy. Yeah, I'm a little behind there. And let staff bring them together through a joint meeting and see, get their thoughts on collapsing those into a single committee. I think the plan is, as it stands right now, they're barely meeting every other month, individually, each committee. And I think the plan is to have Pam start off January, February with a joint meeting, and let staff come up with a recommendation.
They're going to keep all the letters they have to.
At a minimum, we got to eliminate a few letters. Got to get a shorter acronym.
Planning?
And then the last piece, it escapes me right now, there was a third piece to that discussion. That's the one we probably spent the most time on. Do you remember what that was?
I kind of remember where it was, yes.
Yeah, what was that?
It reflected the College Township proposal. So the first was facilities and HR.
Yeah.
And then the next one was a potential of a combined parks and library.
Parks Library, that's it. Yeah, that created a bit of angst amongst the staff. And unfortunately, either we have not done as good a job as we could have communicating our intent, but there appears to be some resistance at the staff level, despite the fact that we're actually trying to make it easier for staff. As I explained in exec, we're trying to take elected officials and place them in the appropriate roles, because both of those have authorities already, authority bodies that are, that set policy. And what Rich and I were trying to do, what we're trying to do at college, is extract additional elected officials out of that policy guidance exercise and into the finance area, since I think Rich shared with us at the meeting that somewhere around 80% of the library's funds come from the Center Region municipalities.
Yeah, 85% of the parks funds are municipal contributions, and 70% of the libraries are. And the other reason the libraries aren't larger is because of the work of the foundation. They've done a good job of reducing that number.
What we ended up with was we're putting together another committee, a temporary committee of representatives from Parks, the library, COG, and 2 elected officials to be determined, to determine how to best approach this. I think part of it is going to just be education and trying to explain to staff exactly what the intent is here, and that is, I'll repeat, we're trying to place elected officials in appropriate roles of oversight, not adding another layer of oversight. We all saw what happened on the Whitehall Road project, where we had elected officials straying outside their lane, I believe, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Let the elected officials focus on the financing part of the authorities, and let the board do their thing.
And the reality is it's memorializing a lot of how everybody's doing. The problem is it hasn't been memorialized. It's just handed down through the generations. There may be some disruptors that get involved, and because there's a vacuum of the information or the processes or the governing documents and everything. ParksGov, that's how that started. We're hoping not to have another one of those. How about that? We're hoping not to have another 3 or 4 years involved in that, huh, Kathy? But the intent is to fill the void that exists in those areas to establish the lanes. And then you got something to point at when somebody steps out of their lane to say, get back, and everything. Unfortunately, there's been a couple different perceptions. One that that somebody's doing a bad job, and that was never our intent. That was never our representation whatsoever. But I can see how it potentially could be. And then the other thing that I've heard, a lack of trust. Well, that that's not it either. You shouldn't have to put yourselves in a position where you're solely relying on trust. That's not a really good policy in government, business, or life in general, but
Trust, but
verify, yeah. I don't know, there's some non-Reaganites, so, and I leave that one alone, but I will say personally, I'm a strong believer in that, in the trust but verify.
so we have some work to do, and the important thing is, I think we took a big step with HR and facilities.
Yes.
This represents the growth of COG.
Yes.
And at a minimum here, we're going to have, I think, a discussion.
Right.
And an opportunity for everybody to get in the room and talk in more detail about if there ought to be a change, and if so, what approach best serves everybody?
Yeah.
What's the most efficient use of everyone's time involved? Because that's a big piece of it that has been shared with us, the amount of time spent preparing agendas. We get COG staff spending an inordinate amount of time preparing agendas for COG committee meetings.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes those meetings don't even come off because of a lack of quorum. And that's inefficient use of time, everybody's time. So,
Yeah, there's two points with that. Like the library director threw out about how she's meeting quarterly with Ferguson and everything. And so if you think about that, let's do that across all the member municipalities. Let's meet with them quarterly, individually, and go through that and everything like that. That doesn't sound like a good, efficient use of staff.
Our proposal actually streamlines
Well, and
it.
it's also inequitable, right?
Yeah.
It's not across the board.
Yeah. Well, that would be the suggestion is, okay, let's do that for everybody. Well, that's not real efficient and stuff. The other interesting thing was whether Parks and Library were too big to put together, AKA let's have two committees and everything. And actually Susan had asked that at one point, and I just kind of said that kind of ran contrary to what we were trying to do is in the streamline. And then I think the other thing, for me at least, was they've got an authority, they've got a board, they don't need a committee to do everything that public safety, for example, or planning needs to do and everything. They have a much stricter lane to be in and everything.
Mostly finance.
Yeah, but the one thing that seemed to resonate a little bit is building library and parks advocates. To have these discussions, as each of you does at our meetings. I think college does committees really well, and not all of our peers do. And so hearing you say this is important helps me at finance, and then helps all of us at general forum and all that kind of stuff. So developing that same
Process?
Yeah, across the board, right now, and I throw it out all, right now, finance is judge, jury, and executioner on financial matters. And that, you can get personalities in the finance committee that could impact, things and everything like that. So the more you can build upon each other, I think the better the process works.
Tracy?
I know you guys talked about like holding HR and facilities for like 6 months and not having meetings or what have you. But I did share a concern, and I still have that very same concern with removing we're talking about advocacy, is removing the liaisons, because there was a situation, and I think employees, when they don't feel like they can go to, they need to have that. So I just still have that large concern with that.
If you read the recommendation in the general forum, there's 3 that is addressed.
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
There'll be 2 members of the general forum appointed to fill those roles. Yes.
I should have explained that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, there was 2 others, and honestly, I don't remember. I remember that one most because I know that was a concern of yours.
Well, could we talk about it here?
Yeah,
Well, it's
that's what
also
I'm saying.
policy, to change policy with that, you have to drop it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that there was 2 other ones that were a part of that to cover
Gotcha.
various things with that, so.
I thought it was eliminated, so I'm sorry.
No, well, I chose,
No, where it came out of, I mean, right now it comes out of HR.
Right.
As part of the executive director's recommendation, he indicated that it would come out of the general forum as a whole,
Okay,
but it would definitely be available,
gotcha.
just to
Sounds
continue to
good.
be available.
I'm good with that.
all right, so we're going to keep, there really isn't anything else for us to do at this point. The process is set in motion to deliberate on those other parts.
I do feel an obligation to, one of the things that got thrown out was a concern about elected officials being involved in picking library content. And that was kind of off the wall for me. But I understand it actually got spoken by one of the executive committee, in the current climate and everything like that. Unfortunately, the reality is if somebody doesn't agree with the operations or things like that, there's nothing preventing that from happening today. And everything. So, and although I understand it, the great thing is I think there's an immediate fix. Just let the foundation's money go towards that kind of stuff. Now, that says the foundation can't be corrupted or be on a bad path or whatever like that. It takes all of us. I mean, that's the reality. It takes all of us.
So we may end up with no change, but the point is we're going to have a
everything.
discussion.
Yeah.
And I want to say one thing in closing. It did catch my attention when the executive director said that the managers unanimously agreed that all COG committees should be eliminated.
No, that's not what he said.
Just had to toss that one over.
It's not what he said, it certainly wasn't unanimous if it was.
I don't know, did I not ask him that?
There was a suggestion that more stuff needs to be hashed out at the general forum.
Oh, no.
And that is shared by a number of managers, not yours truly.
That's important.
I'm glad I brought that up.
Oh, yeah. Well, did you get the study? The executive director was talking about, when they were talking about potentially forming the committee, they were like, studies show that around 7 is, the ideal and all that kind of stuff. And so we suggested that study should be sent to the managers instead of having a committee of 32.
That's my suggestion. Yeah.
So.
All right.
Interesting.
Did I miss any COG committees? General forum on Monday, we'll all have it again. Let's move on to county and liaison reports. Do we have any liaison reports?
CTIDA.
What's that?
CTIDA.
Okay.
Yep, IDA met this week. You may have reported on this, Rich, but I caught it in the minutes. There were the last of the $25,000 that we gave to the IDA last year, the township gave to the IDA, that was used for the small business grants. The last 3 of the 5 grants were awarded in October to Leather Lumber, Happy Valley Live, and Randy Comfort Auto for facade improvements. So that was a very successful 2-round grant program that they did. And then there were just 2 other brief issues. The IDA is working with Discovery Center and will be the applicant on behalf of the Discovery Space, for a state local share account grant. So they're looking at expanding that space, and they're talking with College Township. They're exploring options in Happy Valley, in the whole region. They're at about 18,000 square feet right now, and they anticipate needing up to 40,000 square feet. They're pulling people from 12 counties in for educational programs. They're busy all the time. They've only been open since February of 2020. So, they're looking for sites that are located by highways that buses can come in on. So it sounded like something that aligned with some of the work we're doing in our township. So that was pretty exciting to hear about. So.
It gets me thinking about that industrial space out there that we were asked about rezoning at one point, right?
Yeah.
Just drop that thought out there.
Well, and the money will be used to fund a business development plan, so bring a consultant in, so all options will be on the table. But I learned a lot about Discovery Center and the work they're doing, and it's way outside the region, so that was impressive.
That's big.
Yeah, twice the space, but they need it, they really need it. And then there are some ongoing discussions. The IDA is at a point now where they're looking at contracted services for the executive director, and so there's discussions. They've had the executive director for the last 2 years, and they've made great progress in terms of organizing, strategic planning, committee structure, process. So that will be an ongoing discussion that they will continue to have and discuss with the township. So that's my report.
Any other liaison reports? Anything happening on the 150th in the near future we need to be aware of?
Well, of course, this Sunday, the 23rd, will be the final scheduled event involving the 150th anniversary celebration, College Township. And beginning at 2 o'clock, initially starting and maybe entirely around the monument sign that we have off the parking lot here. We will be having a more formal event with several speakers. We have Representative Takak and Benninghoff will speak. Our own esteemed council chair will have a few words of wisdom. And we'll also hear from the 150th committee chair as well. And so we'll have a flag retirement ceremony, which should be very nice. Apparently, we'll have some general comments. Once that's been completed, there will be refreshments that will be served here. The public is invited to attend. Again, it's Sunday, 2 o'clock p.m. But I want to send my congratulations and thanks to Katie, who's done a really great job of organizing things.
I can't take all the credit.
No, you can't, but I mean, you've played a significant role, and especially in this particular part. Actually, the whole way through, but Katie's done a great job with this, and yeah, she told me I only just have to show up, so it's been great. But that's kind of our crescendo type event here, and again, it's a little more solemn. It's intended to be that way. I'm sure it'll still be an enjoyable time. We're expecting it to be roughly an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on folks and how long people linger over the refreshments. So I think we're in good shape and things are going to go well.
The refreshments are coming from College Township's La Dolce Vita?
Yes, and Taproot Kitchen is doing all this.
Oh, great.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Supporting our township businesses.
Thoughtful choices.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Adam. That would conclude those reports and take us to staff. I'm sorry, did I miss one?
Matt.
I was going to move into staff PC and other committee reports. Okay. That takes us to staff PC and other committee reports. We have a report in here from Kathy. Is there anything that you didn't include in your annual report that needs to be covered? We have a written report. Your monthly report, I think, is in here from the authority.
Yeah.
But I think you covered it with your...
Yeah, I think so, and we're not meeting this month.
Okay.
Canceled the meeting, so I have nothing to report.
All right, Matt, you're up. Planning Commission.
Thank you for canceling.
And then Janet?
Yeah, Matt Penn from the Planning Commission. On Tuesday night, we heard a plan from the Gray Star Hastings and University Student Housing Final Land Development Plan. It's 4 residence halls that are on College Avenue, University Drive, Hastings Road. It's a private project on leased land by Penn State. Probably 2 things. There's a tiny sliver of the land that's in College Township. I think it's a spin bike station. The big discussion we had is stormwater, and I'm not going to do Dawn's technical thing, but I think it's going to be better after the project than it was before the project. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, wait, how's it a spin bike station when we didn't approve spin bikes?
I'm not much an expert on that, but that's.
I think that they're proposing it to be a spin bike
Yeah.
station, and under the university's contract, because the property's under the university's control, they likely have the ability to attach that proposed location to the university's contract,
Okay.
if I had to venture a guess.
Beyond my expertise, I apologize.
The bottom line, it's at the terminus of the path to campus, correct?
Yeah,
Close to it.
Yeah, that's close.
close.
Okay, we sort of discussed the form-based code. Staff recommended we take a few weeks to read it over. We talked a little bit in preparation for the joint meeting in the future. In new business, we heard the Applied Research Lab, Campus Innovation Park Development of Regional Impact. I think Neil's on the Zoom too, if there's any questions. It's a 50-acre project. Going along in the process, the CRPC said that there was merit to the plan, so we decided too that there was merit, which I think the next step in, it goes for you folks. Anybody have any questions about that? And of course, finally, there's a couple walking down the street and they go by a pet store and there's a parrot in the window. And they talk and they say, they make a pretty good family pet. So they buy the parrot and they take it home, and the shop owner says it's a great parrot. So they take it home and everything's going real well for a long time, and then all of a sudden the parrot starts using some rough language and makes fun of them. And one night Dad just got the parrot and tossed it in the freezer, got it out of the cage and tossed it in the freezer. And this is where I'm supposed to start talking like a parrot, but I'm not going to. But the parrot immediately said, I apologize. So he gets it out of the freezer and puts it back in the cage, and the parrot's quiet for a couple more minutes, and then the mom walks by, and the parrot says, what did the turkey do wrong?
Wow. Janet?
Oh, man. I gotta tell my kids.
We did meet earlier this month, and the first thing we discussed was setting the agenda dates for 2026 and agreed to extend the Zoom meeting option for those that care to do that. We also did the first look at our annual report. We'll continue looking at that in January once we have any input from the committee as far as additions or corrections, and also anything that happens the last month of the year. And as you previously had heard, we had the application from Declan McGinnis for his Scout project for the nature trail up at Mountainside Park. He's going to put some signage at the entrances for the park and along the nature trail. The initial thought is about 7 signs along the nature trail that would include QR codes. And that's where some of our discussions centered around the maintenance of that and who would be doing it, how long it would go on, and how it would tie into the signage itself. Plus, additionally, if the person walking the trail doesn't have access to a phone that can utilize the QR codes, what sort of backup information source there might be. He's going to flesh out his proposal and come back in January with further comments on that. And our committee member, Dave Schulte, his son had worked on the trail in the past, several decades ago. He has volunteered to assist Declan in fleshing out of the areas that he can for his proposal, for Declan's proposal for January. And then finally, council had remanded to us Mr. Spoonamore's letter about the bridge in Thompson Woods. And for those of you that need a refresher, it's coming from Thompson Woods into the parking lot that is between your building center and Blaze Alexander. The Thompson Woods side of it is at grade. On the parking lot side, there's 4 steps. And what Mr. Spoonamore was looking for is some sort of bike ramp. At your meeting, that letter included a suggested phrase, if you will, for doing a search on Google to look for solutions. When you do the phraseology that he had, you get a metal U-shaped channel that has a non-skid surface at the base of the U, and at either end has end caps depending upon the topography. In our case, that would be a projection on the bridge face above the surface, which we thought might be a tripping hazard, and then it would be at grade on the parking lot side. We considered that in the past there had been some boards put on there, and that U-shaped channel is, again, 6 inches wide to accommodate all bicycles, including the wider tire mountain bikes. And it needs to be 6 inches at least from any protrusion so that the handlebars and the pedals can clear it. Because the riders get off the bike and walk it. They don't ride down that channel, they walk the bike. So, keeping things simple, the committee has come up with the suggestion and the recommendation that a board be placed such that on the bed of the bridge, it has a bevel so that it is smooth without any projection that would be a potential tripping hazard. And that as the board comes down the steps, there are blocks supporting it, so it does have a firm base under it. And that at the base, down again on the parking lot side, it does make a smooth transition. And that also, just like the metal U-shaped commercially available apparatus, there is some sort of tape or non-skid surface put on the board. But that's our recommendation to council, is that something like that be done, and Amy has investigated and talked to staff, and staff would be willing and able to make that installation. And that's it.
All right. So we're treating this outside of Park and Rec's capital improvement plan from year to year. We're treating this kind of as a...
Yeah, it's really the cost of a 2x6 long enough to go down the steps,
Okay.
and a few little blocks underneath, and the tape. So
It sounds like you guys
minimal.
figured it out.
Yeah.
Congrats for doing the research and coming up with something that's doable and reasonable, and apparently treated lumber, it'll last. It'll be
Yeah, it'll
something.
be treated lumber, yeah.
Questions for Janet? No? Great. Amy, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, it'll be installed very soon.
And I forgot to add, with the metal U-shaped channel, we were concerned that not enough of the stairs would be remaining to meet what the requirements are. And this sort of helps
Yeah, there's still,
alleviate that issue.
yeah, 36 inches, which is the minimum walking width for pedestrians.
And you said it'll be installed soon?
Actually, it probably would have been already if it hadn't been for the snow, but that's okay. I got ahead a little bit, because I really did think there'd be a reason that the council would say no. But again, one board and a little bit of time was all it would. So if it had not been approved, it would have been easy to undo.
Nimble, responsive. I mean, where did people get off saying the wheels of government turn so slowly? Huh?
It involves a board and some tape. We're in.
We're in, that's right.
All right, well, I guess that's it. Thanks, Janet. Thanks for being here in person tonight.
Not a problem.
All right. That then takes Are there any other? No? So that takes us to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging report. We had one earlier this month. Anything to add to that, Mike?
Nothing additional tonight.
Okay. Anybody to address council on that type of an issue? It's part of the agenda item? No? All right. That concludes reports. Takes us to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda has 3 sections. First one, CA1. CA1 is minutes, and the only set of minutes in there is the minutes from our November 6, 2025 College Township Council regular meeting. CA2, correspondence, 2 pieces of correspondence, a letter from Lamont Village Association dated November 11th, 2025 regarding a donation. And the second piece of correspondence, CA2B, is an email from Jane Cawthorn dated October 7th, 2025 regarding lighting on Mulberry Lane. And then CA3 has 3 action items. CA3A is a PennDOT MOU regarding College Avenue detours in the summer of 2026. CA3B is Resolution R-25-27 recognizing College Township's sesquicentennial. And CA3C is Resolution R-25-28 plan revisions for the new land development. Would anyone like to pull any of those items before we consider accepting consent agenda?
I will pull CA2B, the Cawthorn email.
CA2B. Anything else?
CA3A.
CA3A and CA2B.
And just a confirmation on 3B, that we're being asked to execute that, and who would be executing that?
On the
3B.
resolution,
Or, I'm sorry, 3C, apologize.
yeah, I'm gonna, do I sign these? It
Yeah.
would be me.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Just
Sorry.
confirm.
Yeah.
Thank you. I still have 3A.
All right, if that's it, then the chair will entertain a motion to accept the remaining consent agenda items, which is everything except CA2B and CA3A.
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Let's go to CA2A first. CA3A first.
CA3A.
Yeah.
So just a similar question to CA3C, who's executing the document, memorandum of understanding, just
Adam.
to memorialize? And then PennDOT is requesting permission to perform night, so they're extending 7 to 118 days from 100 days.
Yes.
Does that reflect doing night work or not reflect doing night work?
I believe it reflects doing night work.
Okay. And that would be a future action by council to approve the night work, or is that a staff level?
Oh, no, that would need to come back to council, but we have to have the request.
Right.
Unless we've already received it.
Well,
That's what I'm uncertain of.
If you sort of look at their letter, it does mention we request to do night work.
So.
They haven't identified, is this, one night's night work, or is it going to be an extended period? That I don't know.
So I would recommend in that case that that come back once we know the parameters of that night work, and council can consider it at that point and authorize it, because it's essentially, between noise and.
Okay. So that was kind of where I was going, or one, I was curious if their extended schedule included that night work, which should shorten it, and whether we were approving the night work as part of this action, and what I'm hearing is no.
No, yes. The memorandum of understanding doesn't address the night work. It is basically what it does. We were under the impression before we got this letter that we could tell PennDOT, no, you can't use township roads. And they cited state law that says, no, if we have to use township roads, we have the right to do it. However, we agree at that time that we will repair any damages to the the township roads. And as part of that, before the project would start, we would do a walkthrough, videotape the roads, identify what's already bad. They're not going to fix something that's already damaged. It's like an excess maintenance agreement. But they will repair anything that gets damaged as a result of the detour.
As per State Highway Law Act of June 1st, 1945.
So, since Rich brought it up, Eric clearly states they're under no obligation to enter into an MOU with us.
No, they're only doing it because it's out of the kindness of their hearts.
Well, they like us. I mean, we're good people.
Well, they just funded a large part of our project on Pike Street.
Well, if you want to look at it that way.
All right, are we happy with that then?
I'm good with that one, yeah.
I'm not going to entertain a motion to accept that. We're going to defer that, correct?
Well, only no, I think you will accept it as written and presented here tonight. The piece that will come back will be the night work at a future time.
With the understanding, one, that the manager is going to execute, and two, that we're not approving the night work at this time.
Yeah, their original deadline was Tuesday, and we got this, was it last week or just a little over a week ago, and I got a hold of the people from PennDOT and said, no, this has to go before council, and our meeting is the 20th, so that is the earliest you'll get this, and even if we refuse to sign it, they're going to do it anyway.
They've made that clear.
Let's see if they had just asked for a board and some. All right, CA 2B.
Yes. The Cawthorns live in Lamont in the village, and they live on Mulberry Lane between Dale Street and First Avenue. And apparently they have concerns that that area is not lit, and they are trying to move about in the dark. And so they're asking about consideration for a street light in that area.
So this might be a good opportunity for us to revisit
the process,
the whole process of, and not necessarily in the context of tonight's agenda, consent agenda, but maybe as a future agenda item.
Yeah, quick explanation. We do have a street light request policy. It was originally drafted, the first iteration came out in the year 2000. It was somewhat revamped in 2014 is the last time we made any revisions to it. And it basically states a series of criteria under which the township would actually identify that there's a particular need through a study. And if that were to be the case, the township would pay for a street light. But it doesn't preclude street light from being installed, even if it doesn't meet what's the terminology that we use? Compelling need. If it doesn't meet a compelling need, it can still be constructed, but at the cost of the residents, and the township would then take over maintenance and electricity payments, those types of things. But there's a whole procedure there. So, I mean, I have portions of the policy here tonight. I can distribute to council, but we can bring it back on another agenda if you prefer. If we need to discuss it. I do think that the single letter probably doesn't meet the requirements that we presently have for a request for a street light. And as a result, I don't know that even if we wanted to, that we would really be able to utilize the policy to make a determination tonight. So, very quickly, the township will only consider review of a streetlight request when the request is in writing from an individual property owner, collection owner, et cetera, et cetera. Said developers are not eligible for this. And then the second part of that is that written requests must be accompanied by proof that property owners in a 200-foot radius of the property of a street light, proposed street light, are substantially in favor of the request. So that would be the portion of this that we may be missing here. But it's a matter of education for the requester.
Well, Mr. Kaufman's on Zoom.
Okay, so before we go there, the piece that's missing is the second piece.
The second piece, yes.
So a response to the letter could be,
here's the policy, and it appears that what we need to do is to take this next step.
that would be they need to do, is to take that next step. Right. Okay.
Where does this live? Where does this
There any more?
information live?
Anything
Oh,
beyond
it's in the township's policies. Do we have it? I think the policies are on the website.
Should be.
Yeah. But yeah, they are there. They're not in any particular grouping at this point. They're grouped by number.
Just so it's a policy, it's not part of any code.
No, it's not part of the code. This is a township policy.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, you know, if this is even maybe an LTAC thing too.
Well, I think that this begs the question, do we need to like open the whole policy back up for discussion? And that's kind of what I was referring to in a future agenda item.
I would say yes.
Is let's get everybody educated on what the policy is, and let's see if it still works as intended or if it needs tweaked. But in the meantime, since it's an existing policy, there's a piece that needs to happen before we can even act under the existing policy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you Google, you know, if you search policy streetlight on the College Township website, it brings up policy A-001.
Yep.
And
Okay,
it's,
so let's-
it must be the hard copy, so that's available for Mr. Cawthorn, Mr. and Mrs. Cawthorn to look at.
And it seems as though the letter writer is on the Zoom right now. Okay, having heard that, is it Mr. Cawthorn? Do you understand tonight's discussion on your letter?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. And yeah, we will definitely do our research for sure.
Okay, and if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to staff, get clarification on what's required for step 2. In the interim, we will work as a chair, Susan is the chair next year, to get a discussion on the policy.
It needs to be reviewed.
Yeah, I do want to add one thing to that, to someone who routinely walks that area and runs it. That street also is on a hill and a crest, so it makes it even more particularly dangerous if you're over the other side of the hill in the dark. You know, I would add, I'd rather see a sidewalk than a street light, but you know, that's something along other lines.
And are those the type of conditions that would be factored into the staff evaluation if the person were to meet the second criteria?
Yeah, the criteria basically, there's two things. It's evaluated in two different ways. First, it's evaluated whether it's a compelling need. And the compelling needs are identified specifically. It's compelling need is the intersection of an arterial and a collector, an intersection of an arterial with a local street that serves at least 20 residences, intersection of a collector with another collector where the counts are at least 3,000 vehicles a day on the main street and 1,000 vehicles a day on the side street, and any location recommended by the State College Police Department and supported or substantiated by department statistics, accidents, citations, etc. So that's the first part to determine a compelling need. The second part is where the township would not pay for the installation of the light. And essentially, there needs to be an agreement amongst 3 of the 4 corner properties that would be impacted by the light. And then with that concurrence, the property owners could actually pay for the installation of the light, and the township would then take over the responsibilities thereafter.
Okay, so Dustin's comment is a good example of why we probably need to revisit the policy, because there may be other conditions under that that isn't necessarily intersection related that may be worth considering as a compelling.
Or possibly exceptions?
Yeah, right. So food for our discussion, I think.
And I have a question then. So specific to the Cawthorns request, they can place the request under this particular policy at this time.
They could,
And then
yes.
we'll review the policy for any kind of revisions or updates, but they can currently move forward with their
That's
request for this
true,
policy.
provided that they meet
Right.
the
they can take
secondary,
that
the
next step under
secondary
this policy.
requirement.
Okay.
That's correct,
So
yes.
those two things can work parallel.
Yep,
They can.
okay. All right.
So maybe this is a question for Don. In general, how much does a streetlight cost? Installation new.
Well, not including getting power to the pole, which could be pretty substantial. You're probably talking, well, we moved that pole on Pike Street and it was like 4,000.
We already had the power to it.
Yes, so, but
So is that
you're probably talking twice that much, easy.
The proximity to the closest transformer or something, is that the factor?
Well, yeah, wherever you can get power down, there would have to be a meter installed.
So there's some variables.
Yes.
All right. Is that enough discussion for CA2B? Yes. Comfortable moving it forward?
Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, move to approve CA3A and CA2B.
Second?
Second.
All right, discussion? Comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Remainder of the consent agenda accepted. That takes us to old business. Tonight we have two items under old business. The first is the modification to the Hauserville sidewalk. Discussion, I don't know that there's necessarily going to be action, but we'll see, right?
Yes, this is an informative at this point. I had presented this back in October, and we were talking about going from the entrance into Spring Creek Park all the way to College Avenue. And we started getting into design a little bit closer, and we discovered that we might have some issues from Ivy Hill Lane down to College Avenue. And Mike, if you get the photographs, maybe.
Zoom out a little bit here.
Yeah, we have deer crossing. We have deer crossing, that's a real problem there. Now, one of the things we found was we actually had a geotechnical engineer come out with us and talk about this area. I'm sure you're all familiar with that steep bank that goes from College Avenue to Ivy Hill. We originally thought we could do some cutback and not have to do retaining walls. His concern was it's actually a significant amount of loose material. We start trying to cut that bank back, it's just going to keep coming down. And then we also discovered that we have a gas line that was off the edge of the road. One of the things we looked at in the alternate design was we'll do a retaining wall up through there, maybe a 3-foot high retaining wall, nothing major. The only problem is you have to put a footer on that, and the footer would be in conflict with the gas line for almost the entire length. So that becomes almost that's a killer right there. So what we looked at instead was, well, we can still do from Ivy Hill Lane over to College Avenue. It will serve the purpose. One of the things when we were talking with the owner of the Stearns property, actually her son, is he noticed that most of the traffic that he sees, pedestrian bicycle traffic along Hauserville roads, coming down from Stearns Crossing. There's very little comes from College Avenue. So if we were to continue a sidewalk, there's a sidewalk that comes all the way down to Hauserville Road from Ivy Hill. So that would give us a good connection, and if there is a lot of kids going down, either bikes or walking, they would still be able to access the park. So we were looking at reducing the length of the project by about 35%. But also Ivy Hill Lane is shown on our pedestrian planning map as a secondary, isn't that right, sir?
Corridor, yeah.
Yeah. So we would be making that important connection still. But it looks as though to try to put something in from College Avenue to Ivy Hill Lane is going to be almost technically infeasible without large sums of money. But actually might go to the typical section. What we then looked at is, since we're not going to be doing quite so much, maybe we could go with a 6-foot wide sidewalk rather than a 5-foot wide. I know, Eric, one of your concerns was 5 foot's not much of a sidewalk, but if we were to go with a 6-foot sidewalk, this is what that cross-section would look like. You have a little bit of widening of the road before you get to your curb, and then right beside the curb we'd have a 6-foot sidewalk, and then there's a 2-foot a flat area where we would put the split rail fence, which would protect people from going over the edge on that fill slope that's 4 or 5 feet high. It's not a major slope, but we were looking at that as well. We can now go with the 6-foot. If in the future we are able to get a connection over to College Avenue, that sidewalk, that 100 feet that's in there now, is 6 foot. So we would be matching that. So we feel that this is the best option we have. Let's get something built on it. And we make the connection for what we know is the most significant amount of use in that area coming down from Stearns Crossing. So it's just, I wanted to present this to council just to get some feel for, is this an acceptable alternative? I like it. I think that by being able to, the fact that we're saving a little bit of money, we're able to go out with that extra foot of sidewalk, make it 6 foot. And like I say, if we would ever connect, we're going with the width that we already started with. So, any input?
All right, let's start with Tracy. She's chomping at the bit there.
But I think let me back up. My brain is going 12 miles a minute. It's disappointing. The findings is very disappointing. But I do feel optimistic that one day we can connect. So I do like the extra step you guys went to extend the sidewalk, the width of it, and continue it on the other side so that we have something.
Yeah.
and then just, I'm a visionary, so I'm believing that we'll one day have the money to do the connector and we'll be right in a line. So I do appreciate the extra effort. So I'm in agreement with it. I'm bummed, but
we all are.
Yeah.
We all are.
Rustin?
Hey, can you pull up the yellow shaded one again? So I just want to kind of understand again and review the original layout. Was it supposed to be 2 sides originally?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we were on the, we'll call it the hillside from College Avenue past Ivy Hill to a high point on Houserville Road where you have a little better sight distance. You could actually cross at Ivy Hill, but we were looking at going past there to a point, and at that point we'd do a mid-block crossing as shown there, and then we would be on the meadow side from there the whole way to Spring Creek Lane.
Okay. So my first question has to do with the original plan. Why were we not on the stream side or the meadow side the entire way?
Well, we do have some issues there. Wetlands, a couple wetland impacts. Back at College Avenue, there's some guide rail conflict. And there's some challenges. There's a water line there.
There's some retaining wall work as well from the original design.
Yeah, we actually, I don't have anything that shows that, but there's some physical challenges there.
Well, there's also physical challenges on the other side, right? But it seemed logical that we had a connected sidewalk. I mean, I think, honestly, I think the original design's flawed because it's a disconnected sidewalk, right, where you have to cross the road, because the whole idea is to connect, the communities. What we have now by pedestrian traffic is two disconnected communities, right? It is not very conducive. First of all, I mean, the College Avenue crossing, you can do it, but it sucks. And then once you get across, now you're death-defying that whole road segment, right? And so, I mean, I think, I kind of take the other stance. If we're going to save money, then let's invest it in that first portion that's the most unsafe part from College Avenue and get that done, and then connect to Spring Creek Park the rest of the way. I kind of take the flip side of it. And I understand that it's challenging either way, either side of the road, but if it's both going to be challenging, what's the least challenging, or what's the most feasible to get a whole connection?
Yeah, run that one by me again.
So you're proposing that we just cut that first segment from Ivy out to College Avenue,
yes,
right? Because it's challenging. Mm-hmm. And then we complete the Ivy Lane, out to Spring Creek Park. I say let's flip it. If it's challenging, let's take on the challenge.
Oh.
Because the whole point of the pedestrian master plan is connect communities, right? And the hardest part is getting that connection from Ivy Lane out to College. Let's invest in that if it's going to be more money, one or the other, so that we actually have a safe corridor in that most unsafe part. That's kind of where I look at it.
But you're not suggesting that we not have a mid-block crossing?
I mean, that's not ideal.
Understood.
But, yeah, but
I mean, we can cross at Ivy Hill.
It's safer. It's definitely safer.
It's just a little less sight distance, but I think we have enough for minimum safe sight distance.
It's not ideal. I mean, the most ideal thing is to have one set of sidewalk the whole way, right? Mm-hmm. On whatever side it might be. I think we could all agree on that.
Yes.
But to me, I think, the most important part of this whole plan to me is that connection from Ivy Hill out to College. Because that's the most unsafe portion of the road.
But we would do it on the other side of the road, not on the hillside.
No, I think Dustin's talking about doing it on the hillside.
Either way.
Yeah,
either way that's most feasible. I wouldn't rule either out, right? Because they're both going to be a challenge. I wouldn't rule either out.
Did you talk about the gas line?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the killer of the two issues. One being the material coming down. You can build a retaining wall. It's going to be a higher wall than what we initially anticipated. But in order to get that wall in now, instead of having a typical footer where the foot is out in front of the wall, you'd actually have to have it behind the wall, so that then that's what's resisting the movement. But then we might be getting into rock.
It's a tough situation. I guess my closing thoughts are, if we know that we're eventually going to connect it, then let's just go after the hardest part first. But now you kind of got a disconnected sidewalk.
Well,
I get that.
Yeah, what we were thinking is, knowing that most of the traffic's coming down Ivy Hill to go to the park.
But that's because there's a sidewalk there.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's coming from there because there's a sidewalk.
Sidewalk down Ivy Hill, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then that would connect.
That would connect it.
I mean, we can cross there. I talked to Michael about that. And it's not a mid-block crossing anymore because it's at a intersection. But
I take your word for that.
Yeah,
It's
no,
still the
that-
same thing. Well, it's not mid-block,
That's all.
but I mean,
it's still a crossing of a road that speed is an issue on.
I wanted just to ask a question to what Dustin had said, thinking about that, and you said the gas line. What would, with the footer and the gas line, what is the workaround, or what is the need to
Well,
kind of
one
attack
would,
that problem?
we would probably have to, we might have to push the sidewalk back away from the road more to get that footer out from the gas line, which is doable, but
It's excavation.
and like I said, I think if we start excavating behind the wall, it's going to get ugly. I think with rock and with material coming down.
What about that house there too?
Well, there's a house, and then there's a retaining wall in front of the house. It's a pretty nice wall that probably would come out and have to be put back as part of our work.
So is it a possibility that it might not be as bad because there's already an existing wall there?
Well, no, this wall is closer to Ivy Hill. It isn't where we would be putting in our high retaining wall. But it would be another cost because it's outside the right of way, and
But I'm saying, I know it's not where we're going, but someone has excavated behind a place that we might need to go, right? Is it?
this wall actually sits up high. The wall that's in front of that house. It's not down at road level. It sits up a couple feet, and then it's only about this high, but it's a stone masonry wall that when we go to do our work, we're going to be pulling it out and then putting it back.
Well, but if you're pushing it back, never mind. I don't have a full thought on that one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go to Susan.
I agree with Dustin. I get it that this is the hardest connection. This reminds me of the problem we had with College Atherton and Branch Road when 7 Brew went in, and we took a fee in lieu on that because that was the hardest section. And those are the potentially insurmountable things, and it's, we're not addressing it. We're kind of saying we'll deal with that in the future. And I mean, are these just absolutely engineering-wise impossible tasks to accomplish? I mean, I'm not the engineer.
Well, as someone on Planning Commission likes to say, anything's possible with enough money.
Well, and that's, yeah, right, exactly. So, but I think the other point that Dustin made, and it stuck to me, the Ivy Hill crossing, and the majority of traffic crossing at Ivy Hill are crossing because there's nothing, we can't assess the traffic that would be coming down from College Ave because it doesn't exist. Because people won't do that. So, I don't think that's something that lends more credence to it. It's a self-selecting population, and there's no comparison because the other people who we would compare it to aren't there. But there's no simple solution. I mean, Tracy's a visionary. When we dealt with the Branch Road issue, that was a frustration because I can't see a time when that might come to pass. We talked about getting a lot of money in our fee in lieu and then taking that on as a priority project because that's in a priority corridor. I don't know if this is also a priority corridor in the PED plan. But so those are going to be tough things to accomplish because that's where the connectivity is. So, but I understand the practicality. I do. So, maybe our fee in lieu fund will get well enough financed in the future that we can take on these really ambitious, expensive projects and make them safe.
Rich?
I'm kind of both sides in it. I absolutely agree on the connection. I look at it as an extension of our Lamont project. Ultimately we want to fill in that gap too, and we got to get there and everything. But the other part is let's get as much done as we can right now, but then let's set our focus that we're going to do that other section. And we do. We tell developers this all the time, this isn't a hardship, except for financially. You want a sidewalk waiver because it costs a lot to put it on. Well, guess what? We want the sidewalk. Well, same thing here. We want the connectivity. I would ask, is there an opportunity, and because I'm not real crazy about the disconnected sidewalks, of shifting, because it's our road, shifting Hauserville Road towards the hill and get the sidewalk on the same side. And I understand that's a lot more money, but let's find a way. I mean, to me, that's a great grant project right there. We may not get it right away, and that's why I don't want to hold up the whole project, and I would support doing the 6 foot from Ivy Hill to Spring Creek, but immediately working towards filling that gap.
You could slide it over
Yeah,
Actually, you could.
Don likes that.
4 or 5, yeah, no, that's a lot of money, but you could slide that road over a few feet. You would have the gas line under the road, which is fine.
Right.
Your curb would be at the bottom of the slope, so we're not worrying about, material coming down. And that would give you enough room on the other side for a sidewalk.
So you're saying shift the road into the hill?
Yeah.
And then that frees up that other
And keeps the
side.
sidewalk on the same side.
So the sidewalk would all be on the same side, except when you cross from Pike Street
You wouldn't.
to, yeah.
Well,
Change the
you
crossing.
still have to have a crossing down at the intersection,
You definitely
which, if you're moving the road a couple feet, readjusting, I don't know that you want to get down into the intersection itself. You would shift, maybe 100 feet back from the intersection, you start this shift.
Right.
All right, let's do this. I think we've heard a consensus of, not dissatisfaction, I want to say that I think we appreciate your willingness, the approach you took with the trade-offs, the 6 feet, let's widen this to 6 feet and that. But there seems to be enough uncertainty over this that is there support for coming back to us with a little matrix or something that answers some of these questions? Because we're talking about a lot of what ifs and this and that, and we really don't know. Can you put a little data together that would give us a cost, financial impact, or whatever of doing the things that have been tossed out here as examples, so that we have something, and I'm not talking about re-engineering anything, maybe we consult with Michael Pratt and just get some ballparks, a really simple matrix that either steers us back to this, because we now have the data in front of us that answers the questions that have come up, or allows us to settle on something in between, whether it's a 2-stage
Now,
or whatever.
I had given Michael Pratt the night off because I thought I would handle this. Not foreseeing these other issues coming up, but no, tomorrow I will give him a call and say, okay, we're going to look at a couple other things.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's
understand
willing to do that.
This is a project that was conceived probably at this point 15 years ago.
Oh, I'm well aware of that.
Okay? And at that time, I know that Keller Engineering had evaluated all, because that was the initial thought, all on one side, all on the meadow side, and for a variety of different reasons, and that all translate eventually into cost and into dollars. The decision was made to look at trying to do this same type of a project on the other side of the road. So a lot of the analysis is still germane. I mean, it's still.
Yeah, no, there's no,
We just need to see it.
you just want some additional analysis.
And understand here, what might have changed between then and now is you may have a council that's willing to pay a few extra bucks to get to take care of what we're hearing tonight that they're uncomfortable with. Maybe not in the first phase, but as Rich noted, maybe we have a plan that comes out of, what you bring to us, where we immediately move into, what do you refer, phase 2? Only this is not the phase 2 you were referring to. Phase 2A.
Phase
2A, there you go.
Archaeology phase 2.
But at a minimum, I think that exercise is going to quell some of the angst around, you know, what's come up tonight. Even if it doesn't give us what we want, we'll at least have a better understanding of why we are going where we're going. Mike?
If I may.
Do nothing is not an
No,
option.
do nothing is not an option here. Here was the hook for me in talking with Dawn, and it goes back to planning. The secondary corridor that we show in pink in our pedestrian master plan is Ivy Hill. That was the hook for me as we were looking at this and evaluating this. Now, I will show you that what's highlighted in yellow does bring it to College Avenue at some point. What I think what Dawn has proposed is a phase 1 project, as you alluded to, and it has, put on my old transportation planner hat, it has a logical terminus. You've got Spring Creek Park and you've got Ivy Hill, which starts to make the connection out away from Hauserville Road. Maybe not the ideal one, maybe not the one at College Avenue, but I think we all recognize the complexity of College Avenue in terms of pedestrian facilities right now. This is our pedestrian master plan, and that was where the hook came in for me. So just laying that other piece out on the table is, you know, this, when we went through this exercise, this was what we identified in recognition of going up College Avenue is a significant barrier. This is the workaround that we identified.
That's a really good point, and maybe we should have started there, or maybe that should have been part of...
I should have jumped earlier, but it was a good conversation.
But let's not vary completely from what we talked about. Maybe a piece of the information that is provided to us would be the difference in cost or effort between, you know, what we talked about, the options of getting the piece into College Avenue, and the cost of the effort associated with property taking or whatever it is, because I'm familiar with what lies along that line, and it's, you know, it will require some right-of-way acquisition.
That is absolutely, that's a high dollar short throw, is what it is. And it's not saying that there's not a need, and it's not saying there's not value with it, but I will also say it comes with big dollar signs.
Yeah, and that's my point. And maybe this body needs to decide they want to spend that dollars up there, or do they want to spend the dollars on the cut? And I'm just saying that. I don't know what will come out of that. But maybe that needs to be a piece of the evaluation, since you brought it up. What's the cost of the alternative, and what's the timeline? What's the reasonable expectation that that the pink can be acquired? Because you're right, you're absolutely right. If that happens, then this is an easy decision. It accomplishes two things. Gets us from Dale Summit all the way to Spring Creek Park.
Yeah, I mean, my background, my history with these projects is it's always first mile, last mile. You know, you've got to build something to generate the demand for something else. And Susan, you alluded to that. You've got that sidewalk that comes down Ivy Hill that has generated demand. Once they get to the bottom of Ivy Hill, where do they go?
Right.
And right now, if you build that connection Ivy Hill to College, where do they go? But if you go the other way and go Ivy Hill to Spring Creek Park, now you have a logical terminus that you can get through the park and get to Puddintown Road and get onto that path and go further.
Oh, see, but I take your argument and I say, if
You
you build
flip
that
it.
section, I say now you create the demand for the other missing piece.
Right. And I'm not saying we don't tackle that next piece, but I think, you know, you've got a project right here that achieves part of it.
Right.
And then that next part, you know, I think we're absolutely hearing the discussion around we need an evaluation of that next part. That next part is a much bigger lift.
Well, you know, being that it's a big lift, right, it's a challenging lift no matter what, I think my final really thought on it is, right, when you look at the mileage of road, right, obviously you're getting more bang for your buck on that Ivy Hill out to the park, obviously. I think what's important to me is that it's one sidewalk and connected. And so whatever we can do to address that Because that segmentation, I don't think is
That-
really what we're looking for.
That's
Because I don't
absolutely
think that's
concerned.
really connectivity, really. Yeah.
All right, it sounds like there's still support for my wild hair idea there, that
Yes.
we come back with
I
the,
support it.
okay. And maybe we end up at the same place, but it will, but the exercise, I think, at this point is.
And I'm going to guess that it would be the second meeting in December before Michael would be able to have enough data to really give us.
I mean,
Now, I want to also look at crossing right at Ivy Hill, verify that we can do that. We were looking for a little better sight distance on, but if the sight distance meets minimums, and then that eliminates the disconnected sidewalk. It just crosses where we're at the intersection. Now, the one thing I would like to point out is we do want to do something this year because of the closure of
Yeah.
Hauserville Road. That is going to be a huge help to contractors, and I think is going to make the cost of the traffic control much less. One of the things we had with the Struble Road project this year was the traffic on that road was insane. And looking back, I probably would have gone with a detour rather than having the contractor put the traffic through especially in the morning when 14 UPS trucks in a row.
Those were long.
So if we can get something this year, I think we'll see a cost savings in the traffic control that'll be pretty significant.
And Don, that's supposed to be shut down from where? From College out to?
It actually will be, traffic will still be able to come down Ivy Hill and turn right on to go out to Puddintown. But you're not going to have the thousands, probably, of through traffic.
It's going to be closed at the intersection while they do the.
Yeah,
We all do the more expensive part. Because that's what's closed.
Well, yeah, no, I didn't want to bring that up.
Another data point for the matrix.
I wasn't going to mention that, but no, actually, there'd be almost zero traffic from Ivy Hill to College
It's
Avenue.
not coming through, right? Yeah.
But you're getting rid of all that through traffic, and that's going to be, it's going to be a significant help to the contractor that he's not shutting his work down every 5 minutes to let 20 vehicles through.
All right, we let John Sepp off the hook earlier, but we slam dunked you on this one.
Yeah, and it's my fault for not making Michael Pratt come here.
I don't know that he'd had all the answers.
There's always one agenda item, that catches you by surprise.
Yeah, no, I'm having to be yours tonight.
So I can't complain about how long the meeting was.
Well, thanks for the effort.
Well, you can blame Dustin because he started the call.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll revisit it.
Killed me on that stretch of the road one time. Yeah.
All right, we'll come back to this in December. Don't, do whatever you can between now and then. It doesn't have to be extensive. It can be a simple one-page matrix, table, something.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that there's no way he'll be able to have something for the first meeting in December, so I'd have to do the second.
Last meeting of attendance.
I was going to say, we're canceling the 19th, right?
All right, let's move on to OB2, which is the Penn State ARL rezoning remand to the PC.
Okay, thanks. Neil Sullivan is online for any questions, but tonight we're here to talk about the rezoning request that council saw months back from Penn State. This goes hand in hand with the development of regional impact that Matt mentioned earlier. So what we've done tonight is prepared a draft remand letter for council to consider sending to the Planning Commission. In early 2025, Penn State approached the township requesting an area west of Innovation Park to be rezoned from its current designation of UPD 14 to Planned Research Business Park District, or PRBD. This change would allow the new rezoned land to accommodate the expansion of ARL that Penn State is planning over the next 50 years. So we've prepared the remand and for you to consider to send to the Planning Commission. So the remand language is proposed in the memo. One thing I do want to note is the second paragraph under the proposed remand is that Penn State has submitted a DRI for a 50-acre expansion. What I gave to you tonight at your desks was a map that sort of illustrates the difference between why the DRI is asking for a 50-acre expansion, but the rezoning request is for 60 acres. That's because 50 acres is outside of the growth boundary for the DRI request, whereas an additional 10 acres is within the growth boundary, but zoned UPD 14. So the total request for a rezoning is about 60 acres. So the language is here. We're asking the Planning Commission, Council will be asking the Planning Commission to work to establish the amount of land necessary for the DRI, just to ensure that the acreage is accurate. And as we did with the PAM Health DRI, there will also be a subdivision related to this request. Also, Planning Commission is to review and provide a recommendation on the zoning change, accessing infrastructure and utility needs. I put that extra D at the end of that sentence. Sorry about that, just to make sure everyone's paying attention. Analyze the current traffic impacts for pedestrians, bicycles, transit, and vehicular. Evaluate any environmental considerations, and then facilitate regional coordination discussions. So between the DRI report and any staff analysis, we're asking the Planning Commission to make their recommendation on the zoning change. One thing to note is that on Tuesday night, the Planning Commission saw the development of regional impact presented by Neil Sullivan and determined that the DRI does have merit. And, you know, there's a lot of things happening right now with the DRI, but eventually, just as PAM Health is coming together, we anticipate seeing the rezoning, the DRI, and the subdivision approval all together here in the next month or two.
If you say so.
Yes, depending, I mean, the DRI does have to go through the full general forum, and that is 2 general forum meetings that are required there. So we can move forward. And as general forum makes their decision, you know, we can kind of hold where we are after we make our decisions and wait for them to make a final decision. Also, a part of this is a developer agreement for any concerns of the use that's actually going to be established on that property. The developer's agreement will indicate that it's going to be what is anticipated ARL is going to build, and that's it, no other uses. So this is here for your consideration to move on to the Planning Commission.
All right, but to be clear, the developer agreement is separate. It's not part of the remand to the Planning Commission.
No, it's not. I just kind of wanted to encompass everything that's happening here.
So as to not confuse the issue before us tonight, Neil could probably fill us in more on the developer agreement type stuff, but we're really tasked with the remand for tonight.
Exactly, yes, just remanding to the Planning Commission the request to rezone the 60 acres from UPD 14 to PRBD.
Okay. So given that, does staff have any, Lindsay's set this up on a tee for us. Does anybody have any questions or concerns on the staff's suggested remand language? Just kind of looking to the left and to the right. Rich?
Well, I just have a question. In the original request, in the memorandum, it references 62 acres. We accounted for 60 acres. Where's the other 2?
Yeah, that was one, that's why I wanted to incorporate that work to establish the amount of land necessary in the first one, just to ensure that they're consistent, but I'm sure Neil can speak to the 62.
And that's on Penn State, right? So
yeah,
that could change, right?
I guess I looked at it, I mean, we have a discrepancy of 60. We're talking 60 in one spot, 62 in another, and then there's a whole other discussion. Is that enough? I think is what I read from your number one. Are you sure that's enough? We don't want to do this again or anything like that. I looked at that as a bigger discussion than a reconciliation of the original request of 62 and what we have before us of 60. I don't know if Neil can speak to that.
Was that 2 out, or those 2 acres accounted for in the DRI light for that first ARL building, possibly?
That's,
Neil's online, I think we should ask Neil.
yeah.
All right, Neil. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I mean, the discrepancy between the 62 and the 60 acres, I think it just comes down to our base mapping and the accuracy of our GIS data, and so that's all I can say. We just got better data.
Yeah. Note too that the original request did come in January of last year. So, and then in the time that they've prepared the DRI report, which in turn went to CRPC, who then sent it to the Planning Commission, that number I assume has changed slightly.
Well, their GIS apparently got better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's the answer. Thank you.
Anything else, Rich?
No.
Susan?
So I'm just sort of wrapping my head. So we're remanding to ask about the recommendations on the DRI.
Rezoning.
Just the rezoning from the UPD 14 to PRBD.
Yes.
Okay, and that's the entire 60 acres.
Yes.
Okay, and then that will be subdivided, but that's completely separate.
Yes,
That's
that will
later,
come.
and the developer agreement comes with the subdivision.
And the DRI, yes.
Okay, so it's just the rezoning.
Just the rezoning.
Okay. And that's because this will be research, and that's not allowed use in UPD 14.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I'm not saying this would happen, but it's a separate process. Once the rezoning is done, anything can happen. The fact that they may subdivide and they may do this, they may do that, there's no lock to that.
But that's what we, that's what we arrived at last time, that we need to rezone it first. Right?
Yes, I understood. So we have to be careful not to consider the potential subdivision as part of the rezoning.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right, it's about the allowed uses.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, my question, just to remind me, so 2 and 3 on the map handout that you gave us is one parcel together?
I'm gonna have Neil.
62 acres?
Neil, do you have a copy of the map there?
I see it on the screen.
The map came from the DRI report.
Right, that's my map.
So that's an existing parcel, right? That 2 and 3?
Well, according to the tax parcel, everything is one large parcel.
Okay, all right.
Or one, the same tax.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's parcelized, to be honest with you.
Yeah, gotcha. It's one parcel, 1, 2, and 3 are all one parcel. All right, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Tracy?
I don't have anything.
Okay, I don't have any questions. We can, we could simply reference Lindsay's memo as the remand. Am I correct? That would be the most efficient way to do this? Since you've, actually, everything we see on page 2 of your memo?
Right. Just utilize the council memo as the basis for the remand.
Yeah, I would just take the language and put it, rather than a memo, make it into a remand, get that to PC. I would start with the proposed remand language, half of the page 1, and then continue with the rest of the information on page 2.
And in the past, in at least some of these remands, then you've actually sent that memo out to all the council for a quick last thumbs up before it goes to the planning commission.
I'd be happy to do that if that's what council wishes.
What's the pleasure here?
I agree with that.
Good.
Okay.
Great.
And you're going to have like 24 hours to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, right? We'll go with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Day or 2, please.
Right, yeah, there's no immediate, right, it's not going to go to the planning commission at their next meeting. We'll probably hold it off until later in December, so it won't be that quick of a turnaround.
All right, then just put a time in there, whether it's a week or whatever.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so at this point, does somebody want to tackle that? Adam, maybe you could review what you suggested.
Yeah, I would just say, the motion would be move to remand the ARL rezoning request to the planning commission utilizing the council memo received and reviewed this evening as the basis of the remand.
So moved as to eloquently put by the manager.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All right, this is an action item. Do we have any discussion? Any comments from the public before we take a vote? Neil, anything to add? We're getting where we need to be, right? All right, all in favor? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We'll look for a draft remand letter in our email.
Yep. Great, thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. That concludes old business. That takes us to our only new business item tonight, MB1, Center Lifelink grant sponsor request, discussion and potentially action. Staff, we don't have anybody here.
That's me. All things Clearwater. That's right. You get the pinch hitter again here tonight. Scott Rawson from Lifelink, the executive director, sends his apologies. He's actually in his own board meeting tonight, but given the timeline for what they're asking here, I told him I'd be happy to carry the ball for him. What Center Lifelink EMS is trying to do is they're seeking to perform renovations at their headquarters just down the road here. The proposed renovations that they're looking at, improvements to their parking lot, updates to their garage doors as well as windows, 5 new HVAC units, and new carpeting throughout the facility. They are working with a grant writer currently, and they identified the local share account, everybody's new favorite grant program, the statewide program of LSA that's available through the Commonwealth Financing Authority as the potential funding source for the renovations. They're looking at a estimated grant request of $250,000 for this renovation work. Under the LSA, they are not an eligible applicant, but they can attach themselves to a municipal sponsor. And that's really the crux of the request tonight, is Center Lifelink reached out to staff, and I said I would bring it before council for your consideration to have College Township serve as the municipal sponsor for their LSA application. There is precedent for this. We have done that most recently with Clearwater on a couple grants. These types of requests, historically, given this type of a program, are pretty minimal in terms of impacts to staff capacity. It's really more the hours associated with that are dedicated to coordination with the grant, the folks pursuing the grant. So in this case, Center Lifelink, help processing any grant documentation. We're connected as the grantee at that point, so we have to be the one essentially that submits anything through their portals, and accounting for the pass-through of grant funds. Those dollars, again, if they're successfully awarded, hit our account before they go on to the grantee, the true grantee. So the request in front of you tonight is, one, you should consider this request to serve as the municipal sponsor and the potential grantee for Center Lifelink's LSA application. And if you are so inclined as a council to fulfill this role, you signify that by passing Resolution R25-29, which was attached behind the memo. And again, that just signifies the intent to apply, and then the language actually spells out that we're applying on behalf of Center Lifelink and provides the intent and purpose of the grant application that would be submitted. That's what I have for you tonight. Happy to take questions.
Questions for Mike? How about a motion?
I move to approve Resolution R-25-29.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Discussion? Question? Nobody left to address council on the motion. Therefore, we'll Call the vote, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I noticed that I will remain a signator on that, but I'm referred to as council member, which is what my standing will be as we move into next year.
Yeah, as it's being submitted before the end of the year, you're the chair, so you would be submitted as the signator. If they are awarded, we can always make an edit to that, but it's not necessary because it was done during your time as chair.
Okay. Perfect. That takes us to staff informatives. Anything staff wants to add beyond what's in the packet?
Yeah, I think what we wanted to make a comment on has to do with staff informative number 2. Last meeting, we had a conversation relative to proposed renovations for this building, and there were a number of items that were requested. Mike, I don't know if you want to go through these. I mean, we know that we added, as requested, the back entrance door to the proposed new large conference room on the first floor, and they also provided a detail relative to minor, moderate, and heavy restoration as had been requested. So I think that all of the council comments that were made have been addressed at this point by Kimmel, and I believe that we have all. Do we have all their final materials at this point?
Yeah, at this point, they're in the position that they have billed us for every cent under the contract, and they are, much like the rest of us, anxiously awaiting the next phase.
Questions? Everybody's had a chance to see that. Appreciate the comments. I think, Rich, that was mostly you. Good comments.
Yeah, I think they did a great job. I think they did a great job.
They've been great to work with.
All right.
The only other ones was a couple of the budget numbers, maybe reviewed for sufficiency.
Yeah, that'll get
But
dialed
that
in
isn't them.
the next phase.
All right. Then if there aren't any questions on any of the other staff informatives, we can move to council and staff other matters. Do we have any other matters?
I do.
We do.
I do, yes. At your places this evening, you will have found the draft 2026 College Township budget. We have a scheduled budget workshop meeting Monday, December 1st. Food at 5:30, meeting at 6. So please mark your calendars accordingly. The other thing that I wanted to draw your attention to is be careful and pay attention as you review the appendices. They're slightly confusing this year. We tried something a little bit different, and we hope to next year to kind of completely revamp the appendices. But as kind of a mid-step, we have grouped appendices pertinent to various classifications or various areas. So for example, we have grouped all the appendices that are related to personnel. We've grouped all the appendices that are related to the Center Region COG, et cetera. As a result, the appendices are not in any way, shape, or form numbered in order. So do not flip to the back. Don't read the front page of the appendice and know that there's at least 23 appendices, and when you flip to the back, you're on appendice 7.
I just learned how to reference all that stuff. I'm gonna throw me a curveball, huh?
Yeah, I know. So that is probably the most unusual thing about this particular budget.
Could you have just put a page marker in between?
Well, we could do that too.
That's the easiest way, because I like the way that
These were still being assembled as, within an hour or so of your arrival this evening. But I do want to thank the staff for the effort that was made. But we can do that. Yeah, Mike.
I had one additional item, and as if we haven't made you do enough work yet this year, in recognition of some changes coming to ABCs, we do have 4 candidates for ABCs, so we would like to get scheduled interviews. We do have a couple members stepping away from respective ABCs, so we were going to have some additional vacancies. We'd just like to see what we got in the hopper here in terms of candidates. So we will be reaching out about your availability to do some interviews here in the relative near term.
All right, well, while we're all here, let's get a quick, anybody, it's always, it seems to be more convenient to do it ahead of a regular meeting. Is anybody not available before either one of the December meetings?
I will be here for the first meeting.
Okay.
And I don't think I can do anything.
So it sounds like either one of those, a 6 o'clock start for either one of those, whatever one you can pull together.
Yep.
For the candidates. Let's target that.
Maybe the first Thursday, since the last one's shaping up to be quite a meeting.
Yeah, we can gauge their availability, and we'll circle back to everybody, but just definitely want to get that on your radar.
So 6 o'clock for interviews, dinner at 5:30.
Whatever works.
Thank you very much.
Right. Did I,
We gotta save money for a sidewalk.
Right.
all right.
But we will save money because the road will be
I'll bring a
closed.
sandwich if we get a sidewalk. How's that?
So we
I
got-
said, I'll bring the sandwiches if we get a sidewalk. I'll take the
I think
sandwiches.
in one place we might be able to find money for,
Hey, Adam, questions? They never read the policy.
Hey, let's get a motion to adjourn.
oh, but yeah, we're not,
Oh,
no,
so
we're not
moved.
staying.
All right, we're adjourned.